So I've been trying to make this video, hell, even before the Fortnimers update, because I noticed this before that. I don't know how, like, when this was added, but this is something new that I want to point out. But before I get to it, I do want to mention that this is going to be another segmented video, and I'll talk about something later on in it. But first up is the main topic. And also, before I get into it, is there's nothing really to talk about the Fortnimers update because it was just another cosmetic update, so I didn't really expect much. But we did get the Butter Barn, and also for some reason, I guess the pumpkin launcher has been re-added. Don't know why. It's new here because it's just on the top. And before I mention anything else, actually, this is kind of been ruined because of all the new weapons that they keep adding and all the bugs of weapons being in weirder positions than others. Because like the gilded like Midas modular drum gun should be here, but it's not. So whatever. But that's just a thing that I didn't really need to point out, but felt the need to out of nowhere. So let's get on to the actual main thing. So speaking of the rocket launcher, well, the pumpkin launcher, but it too has one inherently. All the other versions of the rocket launcher, it has a placeholder animation for first person, as well as the, well, LMG and the crossbow. All three variants of the Cupid, Field Hunter, and just base crossbow. So, newly joining those placeholder animations is the P90 submachine gun. Very cool. And the heisted running gun also inherently does it, but it has a different, better animation. Only because the charging handle, like, actually racks backwards when you pull it. And you also tap the magazine, which is very cool. But I mean, it's whatever. Part of me feels like this could be a bug from the third-person animation translating to the first-person view model. But part of me also tells me that's just not it. This is probably just a new placeholder animation. So there'd only be three reasons why this has a placeholder animation. And the first reason would be for it to be ballistic, which that would be very cool because normally a lot of the placeholder animations they end up being in ballistic, like the field precision SMG, well, the veiled precision SMG, and eventually the Monarch will be. But some weapons don't get placeholder animations, which I find very weird, but it's whatever. And they've yet to reverse engineer some of the animations for the weapons that didn't get any. So it's like, kind of a 50-50 chance sometimes. But either way, if they add a ballistic version of this, that would be very cool. But there would also be some things I'd like to, have hope change. And I feel like they would because, I mean, it's up to Chapter 5 standards, and Ballistic has those same standards of making weaponry. And that is to be closely to the real steel counterpart, as quote unquote can be. Because, of course, it's still Fortnite. There's still some issues with those weapons themselves, but they look better than, all the classic cartoony Fortnite weapons because, of course, they're supposed to. So if they do, hopefully they make the charging handle not where it is right now because it should be more further endward of the gun, like just near the barrel basically, and it shouldn't reciprocate when you fire, and also it the ejection port should be on the bottom of the gun because that's how the mechanism of the P90 works, and the casings, even though it'll be hard to see, should be bottlenecked like the 5.7 cartridge, actually is. So that'd be cool because that's my only thought process if this has a placeholder animation because it's a special gun, so they want to practice it on this gun before they make like the newer model for it. But there's also the second reason that could ultimately kill my hopes of a P90 variant being added to ballistic, and that maybe they're making ideas of just animating old guns in general, which would be cool. A little bit too much because I feel like they could just make a function to have the third person animations work in the first person view model. I feel like you could do that. It would look a little bit jank, but I feel like you could do that. And we'll actually get onto that later because something is relevant to that. And the third one is really just an offhand thing, but maybe someone is just doing their job too well because we've seen that happen at Epic to where someone at the job department is like, hey, I'm supposed to make Lego skins, so I'm going to make a Lego variant of this skin, even though that skin was scrapped, you know? So someone at the first person animation department is just like, oh, hey, I'm going to make a reload animation for this gun. And it just so happens to not be for ballistic. I, that one feels less likely, but it's happened before, so I wouldn't see it not happening necessarily. But yeah, so, you know, a good, better model and more close to the actual P90 is basically what I hope for if they do plan on making a ballistic variant for this gun. So that's really about it for this part of the video, which was the main topic of the video. Let's get on to the bigger, more rambly side of things. I feel like for consistency's sake, I should keep the first person view model here. Also, plus because there is a bug that I will mention, and also, again, because of the aforementioned thing, I want to talk about OG models being in creative, and it's very cool. However, there is a few problems that I've noticed, and also a small thing that will happen, but it's not really a problem, but I'm just going to point it out because, I mean, it's just a thing to point out, but if it's already happening, it wouldn't really matter, but you'll see why there's 3 pump shotguns in my inventory. So I really do appreciate that they've added a few OG models into creative because it feels so good to have a 3 round burst rifle again that has not only 30 rounds in the magazine, but it's just better. I just love that, and it's bugged where it does this. I think that might just be for the third person too, but either way, it's just kind of funny that it does this. However, this is technically not the OG model, but we'll get into that later because this one is just eh. Has the better sound, I will admit, but it's 2 round burst. Don't let the bug fool you because it still sounds like the 3 round burst because of the Chapter 2 remix thing screwing that over. And it still holds 20 in the magazine, which is whack. I don't know why they nerfed it to 20. It still could have worked with 30 in the magazine. But I will say that the French are weird and made the original FAMAS F1 magazine undivisible by 3. So, yeah. And I'm just going to leave these here for now, and we'll talk about the pump shotgun now. So, technically, we've already had the OG model because nothing really has changed from the model itself between this and this. But it's good to have the better damage, the better stats, and that punchy sound effect again. And this is also why I feel that the third person animation thing can just work. Because if this manages to happen, they can definitely do it for like the reload. Because I do believe this is just the third person recoil and also fore-end racking. And it's just managing to still be here in the first person. So they could definitely make it work. They just have to adjust it a little bit. So, yeah. Also, by the way, the thumb little thing happens for both this, much like Double Trouble, and the Sharptooth Shotgun doesn't have any sound at all. And it's kind of funny. But the whole entire reason why I have the Sharptooth Shotgun is because technically we have 3 of the same gun. It's a one-time thing that happens because for some reason the Sharptooth Shotgun does have this, and but yeah, and also this doesn't have any changes between its chapter 1 counterpart to its chapter 2 counterpart, which I kind of find a little bit whack, but it's whatever. Either way, It's very cool that we do have the OG model to mess around with, but technically speaking, it's really just the same gun with different stats because the model hasn't changed. But to make it a lot better, let's get on to the problems that actually exist, not just the whole entire weapon bloating thing that already happens anyways, because Epic feels the need to add a new type of pump shotgun every single season that isn't the same pump shotgun that we have, and also just new things in general that are similar to the other weapons that exist for some reason, but it's really whatever. It's not a problem at all anymore because they keep doing it, but the true problem, this is the Chapter 2 model for the Burst. As you can see, it looks close to its icon because it's supposed to. That's how it works. It's got text near the magwell, the magazine's straight on the base, and it's got little, bump mapping on the forend with the little tiny bumps and grooves that it's supposed to have. And this is the Chapter 1. Well, it's not. This is the Chapter 1 model. It's got no texturing on the forend. It's got a also more angled muzzle device for some reason. At least I think it does. Could be the lighting and the rendering, but I do know they've definitely tweaked up a little bit, so it might just be more cartoony for chapter 1, and then chapter 2 they kind of like toned it down just a little bit. But the magazine is very well clearly a little bit angled. There's no text on the magwell, and the bolt and the magazine and the charging handle are silver. They're not here. And also the wear and tear is a lot more lighter here than it is here. It's kind of inverse. So technically speaking, we don't have the OG model. We just have the OG stats and sounds, which I do like that we have the sounds because it more preservation. But we need the model as well for preservation as well. Just more stuff because it's also fun because I do miss the old models. For the pump shotgun, I don't even remember which one I dropped. It was supposed to be the chapter 1 version, but because both of them look the exact same. You can see there's little bumps, much like the fore end of this on the grip, and the text was there. I remember it being there for chapter 1, but nothing else. So this is the icon for chapter 1, and this is the icon for chapter 2. Chapter 1 I feel like has a lot more smooth like texture on the fore end, but other than, the coloring for the screws, there's not much difference. The heat shield and stock are toned down in their shade of green, I believe. The bolt is black rather than silver, and also the screws, again, are silver rather than black. So we just need texturing for the chapter 1 pump. And I actually, maybe the text isn't even supposed to be there because I don't see it on the receiver, but either way, we need the texturing for the pump rather than because the model is the exact same. It's just the texturing that needs to be fixed, and it's not really a big issue. So, yeah, but it would also be good for the sake of preservation, because they are making these OG models happen anyways. So it would just be cool. Even though this would technically make two of the same weapon happen, they already have done that because now there's like a legendary like M16 model of the assault rifle and a blue scar, which I feel is really whack. But I think they did that because one like season or a chapter they just made every single weapon the scar. So yeah, but either way, technically speaking, we'd have two versions of a lot of weapons because there'd be two ARs, two scars, anyways. Because so there'd technically be a third set of ARs that have different stats and only change at the legendary and epic rarity because Epic wanted to do that originally, and also that would mean that there'd be you just be two of everything because there'd be two P90s, one that was the original one that has the magazine and also the well, yeah, so that this might actually be a lot more wonky because the magazine for the P90 in Chapter 2 was a lot more flat-ended than the wonky design that Chapter 1 version had for Season 5. And also would had 33 or maybe 35 rounds in the magazine, but either way, it would just be very cool because they've done it for the but ugly burst model, they've done it for the revolver, and they've done it for the tactical submachine gun and just the original Tech 9 submachine gun. And also, of course, the actual OG pump model that isn't the epic and legendary version. So hopefully they do that for like the burst. Well, hopefully they do that for like the bolt action and also the hunting rifle, which also should have a magazine version because I don't know why they didn't uh, bring that back, but it used to have a magazine, much like the bolt, so it reused the animation, and I feel like they could do that, which is the only real thing because we do technically still have the old OG model for the hunting rifle because I don't think they removed it yet, and also the heavy shotgun, which I don't know why they removed because it was in here still for a while. They just removed the holographic sight from it for some reason because they wanted to differentiate it from the slug version. But either way, the model exists in the OG one, so bring it here. So yeah, that's about it. Also add police cars. This was a big long ramble, but I really just hope for more OG models in the future for creative because it's just fun to have those. So yeah,